All right, time to jump into this deep dive on SoundHound AI. They're really making a name for themselves in voice AI. And we've got this Motley Fool article here that you wanted us to unpack. Lots to talk about. Surging revenues, some interesting stock market moves, the whole shebang.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, isn't it? They're breaking revenue records, but then the stock takes a dip. It seems kind of counterintuitive at first glance.
For sure, you'd think investors would be over the moon. So what's the deal with this stock drop?
Well, sometimes the market does its own thing. It doesn't always react the way we expect. Could be all sorts of things at play, maybe some broader economic anxieties or investors just getting spooked easily.
Yeah, that makes sense. But let's stick with the positives for now. 89% revenue growth year over year. That's not something you see every day. And hitting $25.1 million in Q3, that's got to be getting some attention.
Absolutely. And they even surpassed what analysts were predicting, both for revenue and earnings per share. Beating those estimates usually makes Wall Street pretty happy.
So even with this dip, it's not like the company's in trouble. Their stock's actually up 200% for the year so far.
Right, and on top of that, they've upped their revenue projections. For both 2024 and 2025, they're clearly feeling good about the future.
All right, so they're riding this wave of success. But what's actually driving this growth? The article pointed out some interesting strategic moves they're making.
Well, one thing that really jumps out is their backlog. For both subscriptions and bookings, it's growing like crazy. This isn't just a one-time spike. It means there's a steady flow of future revenue coming our way.
That's a great indicator. It's like having a packed schedule for the foreseeable future.
Exactly. And one of the partners that's really exciting everyone is the automotive industry. SoundHound is making deals left and right with the big car manufacturers and those up-and-coming EV startups.
So they're playing both sides, huh? Working with the established players and betting on the newcomers, too?
Smart move, right. And they're not just dipping their toes in. We're talking double-digit growth in the number of cars using their tech. Plus, they've managed to raise prices. It's a win-win situation.
Sounds like they're hitting the gas in the automotive world. But the article also mentioned another area where they're doing really well, restaurants, specifically drive-thrus.
Yeah, they've got a strong presence there. They're working with some big fast food names you definitely recognize. And get this, they just landed a deal with a major pizza chain.
Yeah.
One of the top 3 in the world, no less.
Wow, everyone loves pizza. That seems like a huge win for them.
It definitely is. Shows they're not limiting themselves to just one kind of restaurant. They want to be the HE go-to voice AI for the entire industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of branching out, they went and acquired this company called Amelia. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Amelia is an AI platform, and SoundHound is using it to break into new sectors, like healthcare and finance, for example.
So they're diversifying their portfolio with Amelia.
It's a pretty strategic move.
And it looks like it's already paying off. They've snagged contracts with the U.S. military.
Oh, yeah, and a top payment card company, too, just to name a couple.
Those are some impressive wins, for sure. But for those of us who aren't, Wall Street experts, what does all this actually mean? What's the bigger picture here?
Well, it seems like SoundHound is aiming high. They don't just want to be another voice AI company. They want to be the voice AI platform.
Ambitious.
Yeah.
But do they actually have the tech to pull that off?
Well, they're rolling out this new foundation model. It's called Polaris, and it's built on billions of real conversations. So that puts them right at the cutting edge of AI technology.
Billions of conversations. So their AI isn't just imitating us. It's actually learning from how people talk to each other.
Exactly. That's what makes Polaris so powerful. It's not just understanding the words we say. It's learning the nuances of how we communicate, the intent behind the words.
That's incredible. And I'm guessing the Amelia acquisition is playing a role in this too, helping train their AI even further.
Absolutely. Amelia is not just about entering new markets. It's about getting valuable data to train SoundHound's AI across all sorts of different industries. It's like giving their AI a crash course in how different sectors talk and interact.
Okay, so they're getting smarter, A&D expanding their reach. But what about the financial side of things? The article mentioned something called a price-to-sales ratio.
Right, the PS ratio. It's basically a way to gauge how much investors are willing to pay for every dollar of sales a company generates.
So a high PS ratio means investors are feeling pretty optimistic about the company's future growth.
Exactly. And in SoundHound's case, their PS ratio is pretty high right now, which suggests investors are betting big on their potential.
So maybe not the cheapest stock to buy right now, but it could pay off big time down the road if they keep growing like this.
You got it. Of course, with companies at this stage, there's always some risk involved.
Right, just like with any investment. This deep dive is definitely making me curious about SoundHound, though. What else should we know about their strategy and their position in the market overall?
Well, they're aiming to be more than just another voice AI company. They want to be the dominant player across multiple sectors.
That's a pretty big goal. What makes them think they can pull that off, especially in such a competitive market?
One of the things that sets them apart is their focus on building a comprehensive voice AI platform. They're not just offering individual products or solutions. They're creating this whole ecosystem for voice interaction.
So they're thinking bigger picture, almost like they're building the infrastructure for a voice-enabled world.
Exactly. Think of it like an operating system for voice AI. Their platform covers everything, from speech recognition and natural language understanding to voice synthesis and even custom wake words.
Wow, that's a lot. Pretty impressive set of tools. And you mentioned their new foundation model, Polaris. How does that fit into their overall strategy?
Polaris is like the brain of the whole operation. It's what allows them to really understand the meaning and intent behind what people are saying. Remember all those billions of conversations we talked about? That's what's fueling Polaris's intelligence.
Right, so it's not just recognizing words, it's understanding the context, the nuances of how we actually talk to each other.
Exactly. And that's key for creating a natural voice experience. Think about those times you've used voice assistants, and they just don't seem to get what you're saying. Polaris is designed to solve that problem.
I see what you mean. It makes sense why they're focusing on that. And the Amelia acquisition, how does that fit in with this whole platform strategy?
It's a brilliant move on a couple of levels.
Yep.
First, it gets them into new markets, like healthcare and finance, where Amelia already has a foothold.
Yeah.
But even more importantly, it gives them a ton of industry-specific data to train Polaris even further.
So it's not just buying a company, it's buying expertise and data to make their AI smarter.
You got it. They're constantly improving their technology, which is essential in a field like AI that's always evolving.
It's like they're building this amazing AI brain trust. But let's zoom back in on Polaris for a second. Can you break it down for us? How does it actually work? What makes it so different from other AI models out there?
Imagine a massive neural network trained on all those billions of conversations. It learns to spot patterns and relationships between words, phrases, even vocal cues. So it understands not just what's being said, but the speaker's intent, even their emotional state.
So it's not just about grammar and vocabulary, it's about deciphering all the subtleties of human communication.
Exactly. And that's what lets SoundHound create these really engaging voice experiences. Imagine a voice assistant that doesn't just answer your questions, but can actually sense your mood and change its responses accordingly.
That's pretty wild. So what about real-world applications? Where are we seeing Polaris making a difference?
Well, it's already powering their voice AI solutions across different industries. In the automotive sector, for example, it allows drivers to interact with their cars in a much more natural way.
You mean like telling your car to find a good coffee shop and it actually understands what you mean? Even if you don't say exactly what good means to you.
Exactly. Polaris can learn your preferences over time and give you personalized recommendations based on what you've done and chosen in the past.
That's impressive. What about other industries? Where else is Polaris making an impact?
Well, in the restaurant industry, it's really changing the drive-through experience. It can handle complex orders, understand different accents and dialects, even remember what you ordered last time.
It's like having a super efficient cashier who's also really friendly and never forgets your usual order.
That's a great way to put it. And as Polaris keeps learning, we'll see even more cool applications pop up in healthcare, finance, education, you name it.
It's like they're creating this AI-powered Swiss Army knife that can be used for anything.
Kind of, yeah.
But we've been focusing on the positives. What about the challenges? What potential roadblocks do you think SoundHound might face as they try to become the voice AI platform?
Well, like any company with big ambitions, they're going to hit some bumps in the road.
Yeah.
Competition in the AI space is fierce. You've got tech giants like Google and Amazon pouring tons of resources into this stuff.
Right, so they're up against some serious players. How do they plan to compete with companies that have so much money and power?
One of their strengths is their focus on vertical integration. They're not just developing AI models, they're also creating the hardware and software that integrate those models into different devices and systems.
So they're controlling the entire ecosystem, from the AI brain to the actual devices people use?
Exactly. That gives them a lot of control over customization and optimization. They can tailor their solutions to specific industries and situations in a way that those bigger, more general AI platforms can't really do.
That's a really smart approach that lets them be more nimble and responsive to what different markets need. But what about the ethics of all this? As AI gets more powerful, more widespread, how is SoundHound addressing concerns about bias, privacy, potential misuse?
That's a really important question, and it's something they take very seriously. They've been pretty upfront about their commitment to developing AI responsibly and ethically.
Can you give us some examples of how they're actually doing that?
For one thing, they're actively trying to reduce bias in their AI models. They use diverse data sets for training and have these rigorous testing procedures to make sure everything's fair and inclusive.
So they're taking steps to adjust the potential for AI to reinforce existing biases.
Absolutely. And they're also prioritizing user privacy. They're transparent about how they collect and use data, and they're committed to giving users control over their own information.
That's good to hear. Sounds like they're finding that balance between innovation and responsibility, which is so crucial in a field as powerful as AI.
For sure, they understand that trust is everything, and they're taking concrete steps to make sure their technology is used for good.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening. I'm starting to get a sense of the scope of SoundHound's vision, but before we wrap up, I want to touch on something else the article mentioned. SoundHound's valuation and their price-to-sales ratio. We talked about this a little earlier, but can you go into more detail about what those numbers mean for potential investors?
Sure. As we said, their price-to-sales ratio is quite high right now, which shows that investors are optimistic about their growth potential. But it's important to remember, valuation is just one piece of the puzzle.
So what other factors should investors consider before they go all in on SoundHound?
Well, they should definitely look at the company's financials, things like revenue growth, profitability, cash flow, and they should also assess the competitive landscape and understand the risks and challenges SoundHound might face.
That's a lot to take in. Sounds like investing in a company like this requires some serious homework.
Absolutely. You need to look at the whole picture, weigh both the potential rewards and the risks.
This deep dive has definitely given our listeners a solid foundation for understanding SoundHound AI and their place in the market. But there's one more area I think we need to explore, their global impact. They're not just a US-based company anymore, right?
That's right. They're not just focused on the US anymore. They're making moves in Europe and Asia, which really shows how ambitious they are on a global scale. It goes to show how much potential there is for voice AI worldwide. As technology gets better, those language barriers are starting to disappear. And SoundHound's in a great position to be a leader in this new interconnected world.
It's amazing to think about how technology can connect people across different cultures, different continents. But going global must come with its own set of challenges, right?
Oh, of course. Every region has its own unique quirks. Different cultures, regulations, even a technological infrastructure can vary. SoundHound needs to be smart about adapting their strategies and solutions to fit all these diverse markets.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They have to be really careful about tailoring their offerings to each specific part of the world.
Exactly. They need to really understand the local languages, the customs, even things like what kind of technology people prefer in each region.
Sounds like a lot to juggle, but it seems like they're up for the challenge. They've been pretty successful so far, so they must be good at navigating all this complexity.
They are. And it's not just about expanding their market share either. This global push helps them collect even more data to train and refine their AI models even further.
So the more diverse their data, the smarter and more adaptable their AI becomes.
Exactly. They're tapping into this global network of voices and languages, which gives them a huge advantage when it comes to developing AI.
Yeah.
That can truly understand and interact with people from all walks of life.
This whole global aspect has me thinking about the bigger picture. SoundHound's mission goes beyond just being a company. They're almost like a cultural force, shaping how we communicate and interact with technology on a global scale.
That's a great point. It really highlights how important it is for companies like SoundHound to approach AI development with a sense of responsibility. They need to be aware of the potential impact this technology can have on society.
It's not just about making money. It's about creating a future where technology actually makes our lives better.
Absolutely. And SoundHound seems to get that. Their commitment to ethical AI development, their focus on inclusivity and diversity, their global outlook, it all points to a vision that goes beyond just financial success.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've covered so much ground, from SoundHound's financials and their strategic moves to their innovative technology and their global impact.
It's been a fascinating look at a company that's truly at the forefront of this whole voice AI revolution.
I think our listeners have a much better understanding now. of SoundHound's story, their ambitions, their potential to shape the future of technology.
I agree. We've delved into their business, their tech, even the challenges of expanding globally.
But like any deep dive, we've only scratched the surface. There's always more to learn, more to explore, more to think about.
Yeah, that's what makes it so interesting. The world of technology is always changing, and companies like SoundHound are right there pushing the boundaries.
So for those listening who want to keep digging, what would you suggest they do next?
I'd say check out SoundHound's website, read their blog posts and white papers, keep up with them on social media for the latest news. It's also worth looking into the broader trends in voice AI, and think about the ethical side of this technology. It's evolving so rapidly.
Great advice. And as always, we encourage everyone to think critically about this information, form your own opinions, keep asking those tough questions.
Absolutely. The future of technology is shaped by people who are curious, people who are engaged, who are willing to challenge the way things are.
Okay, so to wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember about SoundHound AI?
SoundHound isn't just building products, they're building a future. A future where our voices become the main way we interact with the world. Their journey shows what's possible when you combine innovation with ambition, and a commitment to using technology to make the world a better place.
Well said. And on that note, a huge thank you to our expert for joining us today. Your insights have been invaluable. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine. It's always great to dive into these topics and have such stimulating conversations.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into SoundHound AI. We hope you found it informative, engaging, and thought-provoking.
Stay curious and keep exploring.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a topic we think you'll love. Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge.